Yuban's team faces the monster Prasna. They are surprised when Prasna speaks. Taram, undeterred, requests buffs from Yui and charges forward to attack. However, Prasna grabs him and throws him away. Yui uses her magic to catch Taram, and Yuhian notes the unexpected reliance on physical strength rather than the anticipated ice-based attack. Yuban expresses the need to proceed seriously now that the investigation has concluded. The team collectively attacks, and Steve, seeking permission from Kibong, finds that his analysis skill doesn't work on Prasna. He warns Bingson about the situation. Bingson presses on, attacking with her flame sword, while Evil Spirit joins the battle after a conversation with Yui. Sisu expresses concern, questioning if Kibong intends to stand by and watch. Kibong responds, asking if they think his team will lose. Sisu acknowledges that Prasna isn't as formidable as the fire dragon but is stronger than anticipated, noting that Bingson is facing difficulties. Kibong expresses discomfort with the situation. Kang and Ilan arrive in the city, with Ilan questioning if it's Kang first time there. Kang confirms it but gives off an aura of familiarity. Ilan notes his seeming experience, and Kang explains that he had thought about visiting the city many times. When asked about their destination, Ilan reveals they are going to confront an evil person disrupting the world. Kang enthusiastically recalls his past of dealing with such individuals. Ilan uses her detection magic and, upon finding something, teleports Kang with her. In the ongoing battle, Prasna easily destroys Taram's sword and pushes him back. Subsequently, Prasna employs an ice attack, halting the advance of Yuhian and Yuban. The team is struggling against Prasna's strength. Yuhian expresses surprise at Prasna's formidable strength and questions them about how they subdued the fire dragon and other 8-star level monsters. Yui claims she can't remember well. Meanwhile, Evil Spirit, intending to take action, is stopped by Yui. Yuhian inquires about their plan, and Evil Spirit reveals his ability, Instant Dungeon, a dungeon from which nobody can escape. Evil Spirit proposes a plan to trap Prasna in the Instant Dungeon, ensuring his defeat. Yui, however, points out that if Evil Spirit enters the dungeon with Prasna, he won't be able to come out either. Taram, refusing to give up, urges Kibong to intervene and remove the masks. Taram expresses the need for Kibong's help, surprising Kibong and Sisu. Bingson, hearing her brother's name, is left confused. Steve confirmed it was her brother's name and expressed surprise at her cluelessness. She is shocked when Kibong removes his mask, revealing his identity. Kibong questions how Taram knew them. Taram, uncertain about Kibong's intentions, contemplates whether he is joking or expecting him to feign ignorance, but decides to set aside such questions, given the urgency of the situation. Prasna launches a sudden attack, and Yui uses her shield to defend, but it easily pierces through, causing a backlash on Yui. Taram, frustrated, confronts Kibong about his seemingly passive stance and questions if he is wearing the mask to merely observe everyone's demise. Kibong signals to Sisu, who nullifies the attack, and Kibong steps forward. Bingson tries to intervene, but Steve stops her. Taram stated that Prasna was the one who was in danger, leading Bingson to think he was crazy and decide to help Kibong, requesting buffs from Steve. Steve advises Bingson to watch, but she remains worried as Prasna prepares a powerful attack. Taram knew the difficulty of blocking an attack with an overwhelmingly large mass. Kibong questions Prasna's motives, to which Prasna simply responds with a determination to kill. Kibong realized that words wouldn't reach Prasna. Kibong surprises everyone by using his body enhancement. Bingson questions if Steve was aware of Kibong's power, to which he admits his knowledge due to his scanning specialty. Prasna launches an attack, dropping a large iceberg on Kibong, who counters with a powerful attack, destroying the iceberg. Kibong expresses disappointment in Prasna's strength, deeming it weaker than even a fire dragon. Prasna attempts another attack, but Kibong effortlessly blows him to bits with a punch. After arriving at their destination, Kang expresses excitement at the scenery. Ilan was surprised by Kang unexpected demeanor for a divine being. Kang detects the scent of the villains and guides Ilan to the location. There, they find Snaker with the chairman, and Ilan becomes convinced that the chairman is a traitor. Snaker, preparing to teleport, taunts them, stating that the Magic Tower Master lacks the strength to deal with him. Kang tries to stop them, but it's too late. Determined, they decide to chase after them, with Kang expressing confidence in their ability to find them. After the battle, Bingson expressed her worry to Kibong and thought she was going to lose him, but she was relieved that her brother was safe. Upon their return, Taram and the others are bombarded with questions from reporters who assume that one of them must be the one who defeated Prasna. Taram dismisses the idea, emphasizing that they are not Prasna's opponents, as it turned out to be more powerful than expected. The reporters are confused, having heard news of Prasna's defeat, and question whether Prasna is still alive. Taram surprises everyone by pointing to Kibong as the one who defeated Prasna. Kibong, feeling bothered by the attention, sighs, but Sisu sees it as a positive development. Steve notices Bingsun's silence and asks what's wrong. Bingsun expresses disbelief at the situation, finding it hard to accept that her brother, whom she knows as someone who can't easily kill a small bug, is the one who killed Prasna. Steve points out that Bingsun wasn't a player from the beginning either, downplaying her concerns. The group leaves the reporters after answering their questions, and news of the successful Prasna raid quickly spreads. Snaker, having heard the news, realizes that the people they were searching for have emerged and decides to move forward with their next plan. Meanwhile, Bingsun confronts Kibong about hiding his power from her. Kibong denies hiding it. Bingsun questions why he wore a mask, and Kibong humorously suggests it was because the horse was cute. Dissatisfied with his response, Bingsun directs her frustration towards Steve, demanding to know if he cast the buffs or if it was Sisu. Steve apologizes, and Bingsun leaves annoyed. Kibong goes in search of Bingsun, but is surprised by the arrival of Kang Hui, who comments on Kibong's scent. Confused, Kibong questions how Kang Hui ended up there, to which Kang Hui asks if Kibong knows him. Suddenly, Ilan appears and demands that Kibong release Kang Hui. Unfazed, Kibong expresses his reluctance to comply. Ilan warns him that he will regret it and attempts to attack with her magic, but Kibong effortlessly dispels it with his bare hands. Ilan is shocked, realizing that even an S-rank individual wouldn't be able to deflect her magic in such a manner, and wonders who Kibong is. Kang Hui mentions that Kibong's smell is familiar even though they just met, attributing his presence to the scent of bad guys. Kibong, skeptical, denies smelling anything strange and urges Kang Hui to be straightforward. As Ilan prepares to attack again, Kibong warns her and releases his aura, frightening her with his overwhelming power. Ilan, determined to save Kang Hui, uses binding magic on Kibong and signals Kang Hui to escape. However, Kang Hui is confused about why she is binding Kibong. The binding magic proves ineffective in restraining Kibong, leaving Ilan confused. She questions how Kibong can move so easily despite the application of her binding magic, considering that it usually can be moved by higher-rank monsters. Kang Hui, impressed by Kibong's abilities, acknowledges his strength. Deciding he has had enough, Kibong moves to attack Ilan, but Kang Hui intervenes, requesting that Kibong not harm her. Kibong, sighing, redirects his attack towards Kang Hui. Despite Kang Hui's attempts to evade, Kibong continues his assault, and Kang Hui struggles to block the attacks. Kang Hui warns Kibong not to touch Ilan, threatening to hurt him if he does. Kibong considers Kang Hui's words, but ultimately dismisses them. Kang Hui, undeterred, attacks Kibong, only to get hurt upon striking his body. Kibong realizes that Kang Hui has never been hit by him before and decides to teach him a lesson. After delivering some blows, Kibong questions the two about why they are there. Kang Hui insists that he's there because of the smell, prompting Kibong to turn his attention to Ilan. Ilan reveals that the Prime Minister was recently attacked and kidnapped by assailants. The Prime Minister, Gong Seong Ryong, is not only a key political figure but also an S-rank player, rarely seen in the world. Kibong finds it hard to believe such news. Ilan confirms the truth and explains that she was chasing the kidnappers with Kang Hui. Kibong questions if the scent led them there, and Kang Hui clarifies that the scent is feigned, making it challenging to track precisely, but it does lead in their direction. Kang Hui expresses uncertainty, but insists that the unpleasant scent belongs to some bad guys. Ilan apologizes for the misunderstanding, and Kibong reassures her, understanding the desperation when the Prime Minister is involved. Kibong inquires about the kidnapper's identity, and Ilan reveals that it is Snaker, an aging S-rank magician from England, who has clashed with players from other countries upon entering Korea. The reason for Snaker's actions is unknown, but Ilan is certain that the kidnapping and the Prasna incident are a collaboration between him and an unidentified entity, one that is covert and powerful, capable of controlling higher-rank monsters. Kibong, in thought, reflects on the unexpected turn of events after his family had reunited. Furious at the revelation, Kibong requests that they guide him to Snaker. He then asks Kang Hui if he remembers Jue, but Kang Hui does not remember. Kibong knew that Jue could greatly enhance Kang Hui's abilities. He instructs Kang Hui to find her. Meanwhile, Sisu observes them from a distance. Meanwhile, Snaker attempts to peek at Kibong's timeline but experiences a backlash. Perplexed by the depth and vastness of Kibong's timeline, Snaker acknowledges that although it's absurd for a man to have lived for hundreds or thousands of years, there must be something he cannot prevent as a human. Meanwhile, Kibong continues searching for Bingson, recognizing the increased danger she faces, especially with the kidnapping of the Prime Minister. Ilan acknowledges Kibong's strength, and Kang Hui admits that even if he were to use his full power, he wouldn't be a match for that person. This surprises Ilan. They then witness Kibong flying through the skies. Bingson returns home and confronts Sisu about her relationship with Kibong. Sisu reveals their inseparable and close connection, leaving Bingson shocked. Desperate for information about her brother, Bingson requested Sisu to explain how Kibong became so strong. Sisu explains that Kibong became strong lying on top of his own corpse. Sisu elaborates that Kibong battled for much longer than 10 years, correcting Bingson's misconception. Bingson, still struggling to understand, mentions her brother's disappearance for a decade. Sisu smiles and suggests that Bingson should hear the details directly from Kibong. She emphasizes that Kibong is much stronger than Bingson thought. Bingson contemplates the mystery of her brother's strength, acknowledging that it defies common sense and seems impossible. Sisu reassures Bingson that Kibong will spare no effort when it comes to her. Sisu then decides to go look for Kibong. As Kibong continues his search, he is suddenly attacked. Despite managing to deflect the attack, he is surprised to find himself injured. Sisu arrives at the scene, and Kibong requests that she track the origin of the attack. Sisu points out the location of the enemy to Kibong, who responds with a powerful attack. The mysterious foe, however, prepares a shield to block the assault. Sisu reports that she is unable to detect any life signs, and when Kibong asks if the enemy died, Sisu clarifies that it disappeared after blocking the attack. Kibong deems the mysterious opponent annoying and instructs Sisu to find the Prime Minister. The disappearance of Prime Minister Seonggyeonggu was not publicly announced, but rumors of her missing status began to circulate. Juwon expresses the urgency of finding the Prime Minister before the enemies become aware of her disappearance. A subordinate suggests the possibility that she might be in seclusion, but Juwon dismisses this idea, pointing out signs of a battle. He speculates that she has been kidnapped or is in a similar dire situation. The subordinate questions who would dare to kidnap the Prime Minister in South Korea, especially considering her S-rank player status. Juwon believes that if she were in seclusion, her absence would be publicly known, indicating a more terrifying situation. Juwon knew the consequences of Prime Minister Seonggyeonggu's disappearance, considering the exclusivity of marble stones to South Korea. Concerned that other countries coveting the stones might take advantage of the situation, Juwon and his team receive a clue about the Prime Minister's whereabouts and head to the designated location. Upon arrival, they are spotted by a guard who calls for reinforcements. Juwon captures the guard and attempts to interrogate him about the Prime Minister's location, but the language barrier hinders communication. A hooded man intervenes, and when one of Juwon's team members tries to grab him, they find that the hooded man is unmovable. The hooded man effortlessly defeats Juwon's team member and commands the others to capture Juwon and his group. Attempting to retreat, Juwon's team finds themselves blocked by the formidable adversaries. Realizing the severity of the situation, one team member suggests that Juwon leave and call for reinforcements. Juwon attempts to follow this advice but is easily caught and overpowered by the enemy. Suddenly, a bear and a wolf appear to assist Juwon. Recognizing Jue among them, Juwon informs her that his team is in danger. Jue agrees to return and aid them. After Kibong reveals that he needs to find someone, Bingson expresses frustration at not being given details, prompting Kibong to mention the danger involved. Despite his concerns, Bingson insists on helping, highlighting her player status. Kibong, however, points out that her skills are lacking. Determined to prove herself, Bingson proposes demonstrating her skills as a condition for accompanying Kibong, to which he agrees. In an attempt to showcase her abilities, Bingson attacks Kibong with the assistance of Steve's buffs. However, Kibong effortlessly evades her attacks and, when she employs her flame sword, Kibong counters it, sending her sword flying, and mentions that her current skills are insufficient even against a rank 8 monster. Bingson, frustrated with the idea of just watching, asserts her determination to join, despite Kibong's concerns about the danger. When she defies Kibong's instructions, he lightly hits her as a form of discipline. Despite this, Bingson continues to voice her disagreement, prompting Kibong to continue his disciplinary taps. Meanwhile, Juing's attackers face an ambush from Jue's friends, who swiftly defeat the enemies. As Jue senses a powerful aura, she follows the animals and encounters Kang Hui, feeling a sense of familiarity upon seeing him. Ilan and Jue exchange greetings and Kang Hui is introduced to Jue as the one who Kibong instructed them to find. Ilan remarks on the coincidence of their meeting. Meanwhile, Kibong took Steve and Bingson with them but made them carry their items. He decides on a direct approach to find those responsible. Kibong plans to beat down everything in sight to draw out their enemies, including the formidable rank 8 monster. Bingson and Steve are surprised when Kibong casually mentions defeating a rank 8 monster. He asks Sisu about the nearest dungeon. After scanning the dungeons on Earth, Sisu reveals that the closest rank 8 dungeon on Earth is an open field dungeon named God Ant in Kaesong. Steve is unfamiliar with the monster, and Bingson notes that the northern regions have been inaccessible since the cataclysm, with no investigations conducted. Despite the uncertainty, Sisu suggests they'll understand once they reach there, prompting Kibong to suggest they move forward without unnecessary delays. Kang Hui leads the group to a house where the Prime Minister's scent vanishes. Jue expresses concern about the Prime Minister being an S-rank player and questions why she hasn't escaped if kidnapped. Ilan wonders about the kidnappers' intentions, suggesting they might be hiding their location. Jue agrees but emphasizes the need to find the Prime Minister first to uncover the truth. Kang Hui and the animals pick up a scent and continue their pursuit. Meanwhile, Snaker and Seongryong engage in a conversation where Seongryong expresses skepticism about Snaker's words. Snaker insists that the truth will be evident soon and reveals a focus on humanity's complete liberation, indifferent to the intentions of others. Seongryong questions the likelihood of success, and Snaker asserts confidence in humanity finding the answer. Seongryong, expressing doubt, releases a threatening display of power, to which Snaker responds by affirming her role as the hope of mankind, a sentiment she dismissively considers a joke. Snaker points out the other people in the room, emphasizing that if those gathered aren't the hope of humanity, then what else could be considered hope? Steve expresses exhaustion after days of walking and scanning the area. Bingson suggests not going back, and Steve agrees, requesting that they don't report to HQ immediately. Bingson agrees, emphasizing the importance of completing their scouting mission before reporting. Steve acknowledges and mentions the lack of intel on North Korea, expressing uncertainty about the monsters or individuals present there. Steve detects a nearby life form, prompting them to be on guard. Bingson, ready to attack, stops when she sees that they are people. The duo questions the strangers, who confirm they've been living there and gratefully eat the food offered. However, they abruptly stand up to leave, expressing fear and urging Steve and Bingson to go back. The atmosphere grows tense as the two strangers appear terrified upon hearing something. Steve uses scan and discovers that it's the giant ants mentioned by Sisu. Scanning magic, a highly coveted skill among national guilds for its ability to remotely observe long distances and detect hidden entities. However, despite its usefulness, the magic has limitations, notably an extremely short scannable distance. Steve expresses disbelief at Sisu's ability to scan from hundreds of kilometers away, acknowledging the immense value it would entail. Bingson brings up Kibong, who single-handedly captured the 8-star prna, leading Steve to ponder the abnormal nature of Bingson's family. Deciding to give up on understanding, Steve realizes that Bingson is also abnormal, which annoys her. He continues scanning and identifies an unclassified monster, estimated at level 5, with a successful weakness analysis. Bingson attacks and defeats a group of giant ants, but the two men still insist on fleeing. Despite Bingson's reassurance that they can handle the ants, the men remain stubborn. Meanwhile, Kibong and Sisu searched another area. Kibong expresses concern about Bingson, and Sisu informs him that she's currently dealing with the ants. Kibong worries about his sister's safety, questioning why was Sisu smiling. Sisu explains that Kibong tends to worry too much about everyone, including getting involved in the current incident out of concern for others, despite claiming not to care about Earth. Sisu admits she doesn't dislike this aspect of Kibong, but wishes he would consider himself more and also think about her. Sisu reveals that when she was captured, Kibong's concern touched her deeply. Expressing a desire for Kibong to prioritize thinking about her and himself over everything else, much like in the tutorial dungeon. Kibong acknowledges the past, and Sisu thanked him for remembering. Soldiers suddenly arrive and prevent Kibong and Sisu from proceeding further. Kibong questions the restriction, and a soldier informs them that while the DMZ may be gone, the north is still off limits to civilians. They mention reports of 2 individuals crossing the border earlier, leading to the dispatch of a tracking team. The soldier explains that while the human war is indeed over, the north is filled with unmanaged monsters, and provoking them might bring those monsters down south. Kibong signals to Sisu, who uses her ability to control the soldiers, ensuring that no one has passed through the area. She instructs the soldiers to erase all the black boxes, and they comply before leaving. Sisu mentions that Bingson has probably encountered the ants by now and would be a good experience for Bingson. Kibong suggested hurrying, and Sisu, feeling the excitement of the moment, expressed her joy, likening it to being on a trip again. Steve and Bingson, overwhelmed by the number of ants, decide to flee and are led by the 2 men to where the other survivors are. However, upon arrival, one of the men is furious about bringing them there. Bingson tries to calm him down, expressing confusion about his anger. The man, frustrated, decides to explain the reason behind North Korea's current state. The man explains that during the era of the Great War, while the rest of the world adapted to the circumstances, North Korea failed to effectively engage in the conflict. The main reason was the fear that their people might awaken as players, preventing them from properly handling dungeons. When change was finally needed, the country's leadership was too old and unable to take action, leading North Korea down a path of ruin. The country spiraled out of control, becoming a state where nothing could be done, and the presence of monsters made it inhospitable. After the Great War, no other surviving nation dared to enter North Korea due to the monsters, causing the survivors to either perish or go into hiding. Bingson questions why, despite gathering people together, there wasn't some level of resistance against the ants. The man explains that they did try, but as witnessed, they were helpless against the ants. Bingson argues that each ant individually is weak, and any decent player should be able to handle them. Steve adds that it's a hive of ants, and the leader of that hive is likely a rank 8 monster. The concept of a rank 8 monster leading a massive hive is highlighted as a new and unprecedented threat to humanity, as rank 8 monsters are typically lone wolves or move in very small packs. Steve suggests that the government back home likely knew about the situation in North Korea, explaining why they never attempted to enter. Suddenly, the survivors are terrified as the ants approach. Steve questions why, despite many being players, they seem so hopeless. Bingson shares the same concern, wondering why, with their numbers, they can't handle the situation, except for the boss. As the army of ants enters the tunnel, the people try to fight them off. Steve rescans the survivors and discovers that there are no melee fighters among them. Steve expresses concern that the survivors will be massacred. Bingson notes the danger of mages being at the front without melee protection and suggests breaking out. Steve buffs Bingson, and together they jump in to assist the survivors, defeating the ants before making their way out. Meanwhile, Ilan takes charge, ordering all Mage Tower members to track and find information on foreign player activities in Korea, lifting all magic prohibitions for this purpose. Ilan acknowledges the urgency of finding the Prime Minister and the need to act swiftly. Snaker senses Ilan's actions, and a subordinate suggests removing the Mage Tower Master. Snaker orders to eliminate them, expressing disappointment that the Tower Master cannot be persuaded. The chairman of the Azure Dragon Guild expresses reservations about defeating the Tower Master alone, but Snaker suggests that with his guild's collective strength, it would be a different story. Despite reluctance, the chairman eventually agrees. Kibong and Sisu arrive at the location, but find no people around. Sisu notes the scarcity of human life signals in North Korea. Kibong questions why, and Sisu explains that the tutorial was open to all fairly, and many in the north awakened as well. Kibong wonders why only North Korea ended up in its current state, but Sisu claims ignorance about human affairs. As Kibong attacks and kills a nearby monster, he confronts Sisu about her evasiveness, but she plays innocent. Bingson's group successfully exits the tunnel, and Steve uses scan to locate the ants. However, he notices an issue as everything appears red, indicating hostile entities. Bingson questions this, and Steve admits he might have slacked on training, but they realize they are standing on top of the anthill, and suddenly, ants start emerging from the ground. Bingson decides to take action, but Steve observes that each soldier ant is a rank 6 monster or higher. Bingson's attacks prove ineffective against the ant's tough skin, and they begin to swarm her. However, a powerful flame surges from her sword, eliminating the ants, surprising even her. Kibong and Sisu arrive, and Sisu easily kills the remaining ants with her shield. She explains that these are colony monsters never before encountered by humanity. Kibong questions Steve about the people behind him, and Steve identifies them as survivors from the north. Kibong asks Sisu about the number of survivors in the northern lands, and she mentions that there aren't many. However, she reminds Kibong that humanity's enemies aren't just monsters. Kibong shrugged this off but vowed to destroy anyone blocking his way. More ants appear, but Kibong effortlessly wipes them out with a single punch, showcasing his immense power. The survivors, witnessing this, plead with Kibong to save them and the others. Sisu notes that there are other human life signals nearby. Kibong expresses his intention to head in that direction, but Sisu informs him that the boss monster is approaching. Kibong welcomes the challenge, determined to finish it quickly. Meanwhile, Kang Huai's group continues the search for the Prime Minister. Jue emphasizes the importance of finding a clue from the Prime Minister, and Ilan expresses confidence that, with all Mage Tower personnel searching, they'll locate it soon. However, they are blocked by the Azure Dragon Guild. The chairman of the Azure Dragon Guild expressed regret that the Mage Tower Master hadn't listened. The chairman then prepares to attack, offering an apology before doing so. Like and subscribe if you want me to continue the next chapters, and thank you for watching.